Unleashed, coming to you with today's Facebook Live. We've jumped in a little bit late, so I apologize for that. Looking forward to what we're talking about today, influencer or workhorse. What I'm about to share with you today, honestly, is probably one of the most important things that we talk about, that we teach. Was a huge misunderstanding for me in my career for a long time. And what happens is, as high achieving women, we enjoy our work, do we not? And the way we have learned to define success is by getting the job done. Now, look, what happens is we are stuck in the gilded cage, not because anyone put us in there. We feel like, oh my gosh, I'm trapped. Now I've made it to the executive ranks, or I'm a leader. I've worked 10, 15, 20 years in my career. How do I step back from the pressure and the demands? And the big piece of it is you got to stop being a workhorse. All right. So you have to really ask yourself, are you an influencer or are you a workhorse? Okay, now what's the difference? So an influencer is really evaluating the landscape of what's going on in your position and within your company and saying, what needs to change here? What's broken? What needs to be fixed? What's effective? Are we working effectively? Are the people on the team effective? Do we have our A team? Like, where do we need to focus on creating change so that we get to the end goal, but we get to the end goal in a different way? A workhorse says, oh my gosh, there's the end goal. Let's go get it. And the reason we do that partly is because of habits we've picked up in our junior years, right? When you first graduated college and got a job, nobody said, oh, great, you're 24 years old and now you're going to tell me that I need to lead my team differently. That's not really believable, right? And so you don't have the authority or really the experience to make some of those decisions. Well, now you do. And so what we see over and over and over again is women are stepping back from leadership positions or not going forward into leadership positions because it just feels overwhelming. It's exhausting. How am I ever going to be able to do this? I can barely keep my head above water. Well, that's because you're working too hard. Okay. But I don't want to drop balls. We hear this over and over again. Women will say, oh, I guess I'll just have to get happy with not doing a good job. No, of course not. If you're a high achiever, you will never be happy not doing a good job. We don't do sloppy work. Failure is not an option. That doesn't feel good. And so what happens is we see a lot of women, they'll kind of drop the ball for a while, or they'll get so frustrated, I just won't go into work today, or I just won't take my work home with me, or I'm not going to go on that business trip. And that's great. We can do that every now and then and we get a little saucy, but that's not sustainable. Okay. If you truly want to unlock the gilded cage and you want to stop making these trade-offs, then what you really have to do is learn how to operate differently in your career. And as high achieving women, we create a lot of the workload. We tend to not be great leaders. I know you think you are. I always thought I was too. But what I mean by that is we either don't give good enough direction or we micromanage. So if we don't give good enough direction, we are just expecting all these other people on our team to be driven the way we are and to be internally motivated, go figure out how to get it done and just deliver a top product, because that's how we are. But guess what? Teams aren't constructed of people just like you. They should be constructed of people who aren't like you. That's the whole point. So that's one failure point that we see a lot in high achieving women. The other is that we micromanage. Hey, I'd really like you to do this project. Hey, how's that coming? Have you gotten it done yet? Did you remember the color orange? Did you dot the I? Did you cross the T? We just we hover. we hover. Same thing we talk to a lot of women in leadership positions. We'll get on the phone with them and say, oh, well, I've been grooming my team and I've been training my team for the last year now. And we're like, what? For a year? What are we grooming them for? A year is forever. We can't let go, right? It's because it's so scary to us to not have control. And so these are all buried in our DNA. These are our psychology. This is all your behavior. You have this lens that says, I have to lead this way. I have to delegate this way. I can't let go. I can't delegate. I can't let them go in the room with the CFO or the CEO without me there. What if I'm not there? What will people think of me? I'm not representing. We fear we're missing out. We fear of a reputation. And so what happens is we are working way harder than we need to. Instead of saying, okay, what's the most effective way to get to the end goal? Sometimes it means you have to teach your leaders to lead. Sometimes that means you have to lead differently. Sometimes that means you have to delay a deadline or a deliverable to help everyone understand we can't keep working this way. But it's how you do it that is the sweet spot. Because the other thing we see women do, because we avoid these confrontational scenarios, it feels uncomfortable, it feels confrontational, we're not being good girls, we were raised to be good girls. it doesn't feel good to tell people, I don't think I can really do it that way for you. Here's how we're going to do it instead. We just avoid the conversation and we do it our way anyways, which then gets you a reputation for a bull in the china shop, or we just continue to be bitter. Has that ever happened to you? Do you know what I mean? Like someone comes in the room and they ask you to do something, and instead of taking charge and saying, hey, look, I hear what you're saying, but here's really how we need to do it in this different way that's more effective. It's not going to make you have to burn the midnight oil, et cetera, et cetera. We just go, okay, great. And then we just are furious. We're livid. How could this person ask us to do it? Why can't they see that we're already working so hard? Why am I the person that has to be doing this? And we get super resentful. And so eventually what happens is you burn out. Because if there's one thing you should learn from watching all of our broadcasts and our trainings is that if your needs aren't getting met, you can only do that for a certain amount of time. For some of us, high achievers, we have a very high tolerance to pain. So we might be able to do it for years, maybe even a decade or so. But eventually, if you don't know how to fulfill your needs and get your needs met, that resentment, that anxiety, that frustration, that anger, it just boils over and you quit. And that's why we see so many women stepping back, so many women taking sabbaticals, so many women stopping short of the leadership ranks. And so it's like it's a what do I call it? Like a 1-2 punch, or we have two things kind of going against us. Is one is we don't have enough women leaders to represent, at the top to pull us up. And those that are there oftentimes are quite competitive because they're like, hey, I broke the glass ceiling. Now it's your turn. Well, that's not what we need, obviously. So we're not seeing that diversity. We're working and operating in a lot of male dominated cultures. And there's certainly some great guys out there who are trying to elevate the whole diversity movement, but again, not quite enough. So we have limited ability to break through the glass ceiling, first of all, right? So there's a lot of limitations and challenges there, as we all know. But the big challenge that we don't talk about and is not enough credit is given to is the internal challenge. And that's what I'm talking about. This is you thinking, oh my God, I am now going to have to sell my soul to the devil if I'm going to continue to rise in my career, because you're already feeling overwhelmed. You're already working so hard. You have to stop being the workhorse. You have to be an influencer. You have to understand how to keep your eye on the ball. You need to understand when to swim in your lane, when it's okay to step outside your lane, and mostly how to communicate that. And again, if you are like all of us, we start out sort of riddled with all this self-doubt, lack of confidence, imposter syndrome, feeling like, oh my gosh, who am I to, say no to this leader who just walked in my office? Who am I to rescope this project when XYZ, this very important person, just asked me for this, when the client demands it, right? We feel insecure in those conversations. And because we feel like we don't know what to say, we feel powerless, or you don't even see that that's an option, right? If you are wired for success, success is getting the job done. Success is never seeing a ball drop. Success is that failure is not an option. Success is that, I am relied upon and I am reliable and seen as someone who always gets it done. Then you won't even see that there's other options in how to work. And we see that a lot. A lot of women are so trapped in this, what we would call like a junior level executive mentality, where you're just kind of getting up into the leadership ranks. You sort of make that first bridge from being an individual contributor to a leader, and then women just sort of stop there. They never continue to grow and realize, I have to elevate where I live mentally. I have to elevate where I live emotionally. I have to learn new ways to communicate. I have to learn new ways to work and operate. It's just working hard. I remember not long ago, I was talking to a couple of different women on the phone, completely unrelated. And they said, you know what? It is my job as the leader to be the expert in my field. It is my job, and these are C-suite women, to know everything there is to know about my particular, level or area of expertise. And I thought, gosh, that's so interesting. I don't agree. I think you need to be knowledgeable. You certainly don't want to be, out of touch or, not know what's going on in your industry, but it's not your job to be, burning the midnight oil with the Excel spreadsheet anymore. It's not your job to be, polishing all the reports. It's not your job to always be the person in front of the executive team. You need to be a leader. You need to be rising up your team. You need to be looking for gaps and opportunities to work more effectively. And that's the big piece, right? An influencer is saying, how can we get to this point more effectively? A workhorse is just like, oh, you want me to do that? And it's task orientation. Let me run off and do this. The other thing we see a lot of women doing, which keeps you trapped in that workhorse area, is, well, if I don't do it, no one else will. And then I'm going to have to deal with the aftermath. Have you ever said that? Oh my gosh, we hear that so often. And I'm like, right. But you don't have to deal with the aftermath. The entire organization has to deal with the aftermath. But again, as women, that feels icky. Ooh, someone's going to be mad at me. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to help those around me really get on board with this idea that we need to change how we work and be more effective, right? And that's what creates that lack of influence. You're not influencing, you're just suggesting or demanding or saying it needs to be different. You're trying to negotiate, but you're not influencing. So influencing, the difference between negotiating and suggesting and demanding, influencing isn't about you, it's about the other people in the room, right? If I'm demanding that this is what I need in order to do my job, I need, an extra 5 days to do my job. That's all about me. If I'm negotiating, hey, if you give me an extra 5 days to do my job, I'll actually, make it this much better. That's negotiating. It's still kind of about me, right? When you're influencing, you really understand what's going on with the other people in the room, and you're going, okay, this is what we really need to do because I understand what that person needs, and that person needs, and I'm going to help them get their needs met while changing how we go about this so it's more effective, and me and my team aren't burning the midnight oil over and over again in this state of hair on fire, frenzied state, can't leave work, trapped in my career. Big difference. But it's how you do it, right? You got to finesse that. You can't just be barging in there and saying, all right, everybody, this is the way it's going to be now. Because a lot of times, I hate to say it, there's a double standard for women, and the saucier we got with some of our words and phrases and how we handle that, we're just seen as a, I hate to say it, bitch in a china shop instead of a bull in a china shop. And, with guys, they don't get as much of that. So I just want to make sure that, as you're hearing me, you're not just going to work tomorrow and demanding a bunch of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've got to be influencing the environment. So your job at these executive level ranks is as an influencer. What happens when you're influencing? You're changing the world around you. What happens to your reputation? You're seen as priceless. What happens when you have a priceless reputation? A lot more flexibility and capability to call the shots, create success on your terms, get more flexibility and fluidity in your workload, your schedule, and how you go about your day. And just that release of all the emotional tension and the stress. You don't have to carry that around because you feel in control. You're influencing the environment. Things don't faze you. The challenges that come up, the complaints that come up, the difficult people that come up, I got it. You just influence it. Big difference. So I tell you what, that is one of the biggest keys and gifts I can give you in unlocking the gilded cage. Really, like I always say, corporations don't make cages, guys. We do. And the answer does not have to be stepping back. It does not have to mean a trade-off. It does not have to be giving up the success you've worked so hard for. But you are going to have to change how you work, and you have to change how you think, and you're going to have to change how you're wired. Because if you're a driven woman, these things I'm talking about don't come easy, right? Otherwise, you would have done it by now. So that's it for today's broadcast, guys. Again, apologies, we were a little bit late today. If you are interested to hear more about what I am talking about, then I invite you to watch a longer presentation that we put together for you guys. It's a free masterclass. We'll link it right here in the comments. Pop in there, watch it at your leisure. I think if you register and you miss the time that it's scheduled for, we'll just send you a replay. So don't sweat it. Watch it in your jammies late at night when you've got a cup of tea and a few minutes to yourself. All right. Thanks again, guys, for coming. If you have any questions, also feel free to put them in the comments. We always come back to these broadcasts, whether they're live or taped, and we'll check them out and be happy to answer those there as well. I'll see you guys next time.